Welcome back to the program here on Business Daily. Now we're talking about inflation numbers. It's declined again. Top time, going down starting from April when the decline actually started. And now it's May, June, and July. And according to the National Bureau of Statistics, it's declined for a third straight month. It's currently at 21.88%. Well, that's the number it is at. However, the food inflation went up to about 22.74%. Let's just, give a brief highlight or intro into the conversation. Headline inflation is 21.88%, down from, that is for July, down from 22.22% in June, give or take about 1.22% down. Now, the food inflation climbed slightly to 22.74%, up from 21.97% in June. Now, this marks the fourth consecutive month of decline in overall inflation, though food price remain a stubborn driver of household hardship. Now, Central Bank of Nigeria maintained its monetary policy rate at 27.5% for the third straight meeting, signaling continued monetary tightening. However, one of the things that we look at, it's one of the reasons for this new numbers, if you remember, is the rebasing of the GDP and all that rebasing numbers that took place recently. How has, however, impacted these numbers. Now, joining me to further discuss this, and as I said earlier before, we saw stories last week when Nigerians were saying, is it numbers we're going to eat? Yes, the inflation is going down, the numbers are down. However, we're not seeing the benefits, we're not seeing the impact on the cost of living, on our living, and the food inflation is still going high. So let's see. Dr. Emmanuel Bashayi is joining us virtually from Kano State to give us more insights and help us better understand what's happening. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, Chiamaka. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. The inflation numbers are down again, fourth consecutive month down from April, May, June, July, now 21.88%. However, food inflation is 22.74%. This disparity in numbers, could you tell us more about that?
So, just to give some bit of perspective, the inflation has been the consistent driver of the headline inflation, being the highest line item. But then, if you take a step backward, you would be able to understand why it seems to still be on the rise. Remember, this is the rainy season. So for most of the food producing belts areas, this is the time where farmers are farming. So even back then in the village when we were growing up, this is like the most difficult time for farmers. Most of the food is not in the farm, it's not yet coming back home. So this is typically like people started seeing some new yams coming in, corn coming in and all, but it's still not full because most of the food is still not yet home. So typically, you will expect that food prices will be at almost the highest at about this time because of that. But then, when we look at just the seasonality, it will look like, okay, there's something that could just go up. But then we also need to look at other things that are also key factors: insecurity, the food producers. Not so many of them are able to go to the farm at this time. They are constrained by their ability to farm as much. So with the things that have happened, especially this year around the Benue area, some parts of Plateau State where you had some significant incidences of insecurity, it doesn't look very good in terms of the outlook as to the supply. And then when the subject to the forces of demand and supply, you would then understand why food prices will not likely be abated soon. And that could continue to drive the inflation number into food inflation. So that's today, unfortunately, and I'm hopeful that some decisive action will be taken in terms of security so that in the subsequent years, we'll see the impact on the food security part.
Okay, so doctor, if I understand you correctly, food inflation drives our inflation here in Nigeria. However, the food inflation number is going up, meanwhile the overall inflation is going down. And we're saying that this is due to seasonal farming and all that. And then you're equally saying that insecurity could equally be a factor. And if it's not resolved, it could equally, impact further things. Now, how will, because in the long run, I'm seeing this downwards, this upward. If nothing is done and something doesn't happen, how will this rising food inflation actually impact our disinflation? Because we're going down. It's supposed to help better life and better the cost of living, better living for people. So how does that impact us?
So the truth there is that we're impacted significantly whenever you talk about food inflation. At the end of the day, is that we will have to eat. It's not negotiable. However, seeing a reduction in inflation on other areas, on things that might not be essentials, daily essentials, and all, you know that when you have a combination of other items, remember these are percentages. When you have a combination of other items driving that, even the one with the biggest weight might be seemingly looking like it's not impacting on the overall number. Remember, the difference is a 0.3%, 0.34%. So let's not shout too much. The 0.3% looks good, but then when inflation is adding close to 1.7 in food, and then you're having the 0.3 reduction, you should know that the other ones have significant, this inflation has significantly reduced for the impact of the food inflation to just be so minimal. So we must say there has been an abatement of inflation on most of the sectors. Food inflation is a challenge. That is because it impacts on our public life and impacts on practically everybody, which is why it's important that we keep an eye on food inflation. Apart from the fact that it's the most significant driver of headline inflation, it is also one aspect that affects practically every aspect of our Nigerian life, which is very, very critical. So I don't want us to be churning out happy statistics and unhappy people. It needs to correlate. It needs to balance. The people need to understand that we are now feeling the fact that this is not biting like it used to. And they now start feeling like there's some bit of relief in many things, from transportation to healthcare to education, because school fees is still increasing. And that it's difficult for Nigerians to reconcile what the numbers say versus the realities that they are faced with. And that is the most important thing for Nigerians. So we all the things, all the happy things, but then the question is, how does it look like in my pocket today?
Okay, now the semantics from Nigerians, they're talking about, oh, the numbers are down, wonderful, but how does that help us? Is it numbers that we're going to eat? These reactions from Nigerians, how is it possible? How can we begin to see the effects, the impact of a declining inflation rate in the cost of living, for the average Nigerian, for the everyday Nigerian out there?
So let me be very practical with you. Think about it. I know you might not be using public transport, so you may not understand this, but at the pump, the price of petrol has reduced. I mean, we used to be above 1,000. When it comes to energy costs, there's a reduction in energy costs. But the guy that used to take a vehicle from Nyanya to Vega, I was paying 500 or 1,000. I don't know what that number is, whatever that is. The cost of that transport hasn't reduced. Instead of the cost of fuel at the pump has marginally. All right. So this is the point. The indices that we go to the market, we're asking for the price of things. The level at which it translates to the reach of the average Nigerian is still very slow. So I would have expected expected that because there's a little reduction in the cost of the commuter should get a little reduction in the cost of fares. That is not happening. Transporter would rather take in more profit and then leave the consumer or the commuter will pay the same price. So in practically every sector, there are sectors where raw materials and inputs have reduced in costs, but the final product hasn't reduced in cost significantly. So the manufacturer will tell you that, hey, I used to take a hit when back in the days when I had to reduce my price, I was making so much profit. So now it's time for me to recover back my profits and all. It is that kind of thing that we're faced with. And that is why we're showing something positive. The reality of the Nigerian isn't as positive yet because it is too slow to make a significant difference.
Okay, doctor. Just let's hone on that what you've said now. Cost of fuel has gone down. Maybe some cost of raw materials production cost price has gone down. Is there something in a way that the government could do that says, okay, since this that has happened, it should translate? I want to believe the FCCPC will be the right organization or agency to look into this to see that the prices go down. Is that some leeway where the government can impose and say this should be the price for this, something so that the average man out there understands that, because he goes to buy fuel at times maybe for his generator and he says that, okay, I bought it 900 last week and now it's 845 this week. However, transport is still 500 from area 1 to Jabi. Why hasn't the price changed? Is the same fuel that the same vehicle public transport guy is buying? So is that something the government could do to help make this translate from numbers to reality?
So in a perfectly competitive market, you typically cannot fix prices, right? The expectation is that competition will typically align prices. So today, when you think about it, different filling stations sell fuel at different prices. So people would rather go to the one that sells at a lower price. Even though I don't think today they are doing as much as they should be doing, but you can want them to do everything. They can't fix the price of cement. They cannot fix the price of rice. They cannot fix transport. Right? So there seems to be like an conspiracy among the players. When you want to buy sachet water now, almost all the sachet water are the same price. So maybe they have an so today consumer at no mercy because your choices are now limited. All right. Before the deregulation, government fixed the government put the price. It is as you sell, that's as I sell. So that petrol side, we also should see it happen in more places. So if somebody who does sachet water, for example, and say, hey, my input cost has reduced, and I think I translate it to pure lack of consistency in public way of nomenclature. If pure water from company A is 350 and pure water from company B is 400, people will say, you know what, the qualities are the same, the tastes are the same, everything is the same, so I might pay 15 naira more. I would rather go with this guy. So you see, by the time the guy doesn't pay, doesn't get as much revenue as the other guy, he'll be forced to come down.
Okay.
But where all of them are the same, it's not like consumer. You don't have a choice. Just take any of the ones you want. The final thing is that you're going to pay the same price. So for the Nigerian populace, what the FCC can make a lot of effort, which I think they should, especially in things that affect Nigerians quite directly, and they're also using organs of government to see how they can be able to persuade the manufacturers and these people to be more lenient with Nigerians. Until that happens, the Nigerian will either be at the mercy of the or just decide not to use the product at all.
All right, all right. I'm so sorry to have to cut you, Doctor. Time is well spent, far well spent today on the program. It's been quite good having you on the program this morning, sharing your insights on the inflation declining. However, the impact is not felt by everyday Nigerians.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure, Chiamaka.
And that's the much we have for you this morning on Business Daily. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms and on our YouTube live stream for more of our news programs and documentaries. I've been your host this morning, Chiamaka Nwafor. Same time, same place tomorrow. Bye for now.